What's up, guys? My name is Jay Williams. Welcome to Southall Farms.
Talk to us, Mr. Jay Williams.
Yes.
Talk to us about the why you are a beekeeper and how you first started beekeeping.
So I got started beekeeping in 2009 when my wife read an article in the newspaper about how bees were in trouble. And I love helping people, and I just felt like this was a good natural step to just jump into something that, number one, made people a little uncomfortable, was exciting, and might make a difference in the world. And it blossomed. I started out with 2 hives, and about 2 weeks later I wanted 100, and now I manage around 100 to 150 hives. But what's really fun is I get to teach people and I get to talk about bees. So I'm much less about making honey and more about making bees and making new beekeepers.
Okay, so what's the most valuable thing you feel like you've learned from beekeeping?
Is that I will never master it whatsoever.
Okay.
I will be hacking this for the rest of my life, and I love that.
Okay,
I
cool.
will, as you'll figure, you know, because you're a beekeeper, you go through this process and you go down this road, and it teaches you about yourself, it teaches you about your bees, about this world, your country, everything. There are lessons that this tiny bug teaches us on a daily basis that will change you. And I want to share that message with as many people as I possibly can.
If someone is thinking about becoming a beekeeper, what do you tell them?
Okay, great question. So if someone's thinking about becoming a beekeeper, you got to go to a school. You got to figure out what you're doing, because this is a big investment of your time and your money, and you want to make sure you do it right. The learning curve can be a little steep in the beginning. So you got to come to a school. It could be our school, it could be the school at your local association. You need a mentor, you need to do your homework. You got to study up. This thing is worth it, right? These bees are important, and your education is important too. So I would say get hooked up with some good education first. Over the winter is a perfect time to do it. And then generally start in April or so with your live bees. And you got to be humble too. You got to be prepared for falling down, because it's not about whether you fall down, it's about how you get back up. And again, another lesson of beekeeping, super important.
What is Southall, and can people come to Southall to learn about bees?
So Southall is 325 acres of heaven. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
I am the Pollination Program Manager at Southall, and what that means is I am in charge of making sure all the bees are healthy and happy, doing really well, but also teaching the public about bees. So if you're ever interested in beekeeping, you want to get in touch with, how do you plant the right plants for your garden? How do you, learn about native bees, which is like mason bees and leafcutter bees? You need to come to Southall. So we have conferences here, we give apiary tours, honey tastings, honey dinners, you name it, we're gonna do it. If it has to do with pollinators, we are all about it.
Awesome. And Southall is in Franklin, Tennessee, and it'll be open to the public when?
Late summer. So
Okay.
August, September of 2022, we are open to
Okay.
the public. You can stay the night or you can visit during the day. Wander through the fields. You can actually work in the fields if you want. You can come do a one-on-one apiary visit with me, and then make sure you go to dinner that night, because most of the things on your plate are going to be from this farm and maybe the beehives.
Okay, so here we are with Southall's bees with Jay Williams. So talk to us, Jay, about your bees, and how do you get your bees to start your hives here at Southall?
So great question. So we raise our own bees. And if you're interested in becoming a beekeeper, the best thing you can do is actually find someone who raises bees in Tennessee, because Tennessee bees know when the nectar flow starts, know when it ends. And so they're much healthier, much more successful. So we actually have a queen line from Southall, which is really fun.
Cool.
So I get to raise a bunch of bees here. And so this is really important. They're healthier, they're happier, and generally as a beekeeper, you want to succeed in the long run, and that's the way to do it.
You raise your own queens. So do you catch swarms in order to do that, or is it all just done through the hives and the hive process?
So it's a long answer. The short version is you have to create, if you want to get into raising bees, you have to create an environment that is really healthy and happy. chemical free if you can.
Yeah.
And an area where like your virgin queens are going to go out and mate with your drones, and then they can be successful. So there's quite a component to providing what the queens really need to live and to grow. But it's not impossible.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we teach here.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, if you really want to get into raising your own bees and being self-sufficient, we're going to teach you how to do it the right way.
Awesome. One of the things that all the Tennessee Honey Festival goers want to know is like local honey. Everyone needs clarity on what is local honey. In your opinion, what makes for local honey?
So these are all really good questions. You're doing a great job here. So you want your local bees, but you also want your local honey, because you really don't want honey from Florida or from California if you're suffering from allergies in Tennessee. You kind of want honey that contains pollen granules because most people are allergic to pollen. And so you want honey that is made by your local beekeeper. And you want to get to know them. You want that personal relationship. You also want to find out, how do they treat their bees? How do they take care of their, their livestock, and how do you harvest your honey? So what you're looking for when you go out to the supermarkets or wherever, by the way, farmers markets better than supermarkets, when you go to buy your honey. But what you want is honey that's raw. You want honey that's not really filtered, not processed. So unfortunately, the large producers will pasteurize the honey. And so they will make it so that it never crystallizes. Well, when you pasteurize your honey, you kill all the good stuff. Yeah. And then they'll ultra filter it, because most people want to be able to like read the newspaper through the jar of honey. Yeah. And Southall in particular is really not that at all. We want cloudy honey. We want honey that's full of nutrients, that's never been processed. Yeah. That is going to crystallize. Yeah. All natural honey crystallizes, which is really important to tell the viewers. Yes. It's like, if you are sitting at home and you look in your shelf and this jar is all, crystallized up, that's great. It's great. That means you got some good stuff in your house and hold on to it. Yeah. If that happens, you literally take the jar, you put it in some warm water, and boom, bada bing, you're back in business. Right. It's just that simple. And that is a lesson that most people need to hear more.
It's okay if your honey is crystallized and cloudy.
It means it's good.
Yes, it's got the good stuff in it.
Cloudy honey is good honey. And honey that comes from your local beekeeper, even more of a plus. Right. There is no official organic standard. It doesn't exist. So unfortunately, it's kind of like, any man or woman's business right now. Whatever you want to call your honey, you call it, and you can get away with it. Yeah. We're trying to change that. Yeah. Okay, so you want to figure out what kind of honey to buy. Number one, your local honey. Number two, you want honey that tastes good, right? Well, what honey tastes good? Why? You want honey that hasn't been processed. You want honey that's raw, and you also want honey that's been produced and collected from your local environment. You want honey that's got tulip poplar in it, locust, clover. You got to remember that honey is like a fine wine. It has a beginning, a middle, and an aftertaste. And so when you have something that you want to experience, every season is going to be different, just like a vintage. So you got to get to know that beekeeper, you got to tap into that supply, and then you've got to figure out what to pair it with, because every year's honey is going to bring out different tastes and different sensations from your local produce, your local farmers. Everybody's got to work together to enjoy the meal, and that's what this is all about.
So what do you have here at Southall? And these look like frames.
So what's really cool about Southall is you got to do things right. You got to think outside the box. Well, we created a bigger box to put all our supers. This is what goes inside the beehive. Well, we really want to avoid using chemicals. So you got to outsmart nature as much as you possibly can. And so we decided to store our frames outside because there's a little pest called a wax moth. And a wax moth likes darkness, and it likes like lack of airflow. Kind of like sticking things in your garage, right? So that's what most beekeepers do. We're trying to do the opposite. We actually stick it outside in the sun. The light goes all the way across it, and the wind blows across it, which, guess what? Keeps the wax moths away. So we don't need to use chemicals or anything to keep them away. We just use nature, and it works. We've been doing it for years and years, and pretty soon these will be right on those colonies making more honey for us.
All right, Jay, so what kind of honey are you going to have at the Tennessee Honey Festival?
So this year, we're going to have wildflower honey. But what's kind of cool about this year's honey is the locust bloom was amazing. You know what that means? The beginning of your taste. When you first taste that honey, bam, you're going to get hit with an extra sweet taste. And the clover was really good too, so you have a good middle taste. We're hoping for a basswood bloom at the end of June, so then you're gonna have your aftertaste when you're all done. So the BMV mobile teaching trailer is gonna be at the Honey Festival this year. It's gonna be amazing. So you can literally walk up to this trailer, stick your hands in gloves, and hold a frame of bees about, what, 2 inches from your face? And I'll be inside there with about, 100,000 bees just chilling, just hanging out, no big deal. And you can be right next to me experiencing what it's like to be a beekeeper without the threat of being stung. I'm Jay Williams, and I'll see you at the Tennessee Honey Festival.